Ciao a tutti, it's Autumn, and I got top 4 at Play Edit number 7. It's crazy that we've already reached the number 7. I'm so happy about that. But yeah, I topped with SYNCHRON artifact, which was, seemingly kind of random. But I've been brewing this for a while, but I've only played it after finding out a couple of cards existed. Well, one, I didn't know it existed, the other, I didn't think about it yet, but yeah, let's get into it. So, I played the standard artifact package, triple moral attack, one scythe, one big attack, triple ignition, triple sanctum, triple call of the hunted, and double cyclone. Pretty self-explanatory. And, besides that, what are the synchrons doing exactly? What's the synergy? The synergy is they make Armades. And Armades is good versus face down monsters, and it's a level 5 light. It's another play this turbo deck, So, we're playing 3 copies of Junk Synchron, as well as 3 copies of Tuning and 1 copy of Reinforcements of the Army to search it out. Its targets are 3 Synchron Explorer, which is pretty much the same as Junk if you have Junk in the graveyard. If you don't know, Junk Synchron special summons out level 2 or lower non-tuner and negates its effects. And Synchron Explorer special summons a Synchron monster from the graveyard. So, either of these guys is a level 5 light Synchro monster. And then we're playing 3 copies of Mathematician. What's Mathematician doing? Well, it's just a good normal turn 1 normal summon that can dump Synchro Fusionist, which is kind of nuts in this deck because the combo is like normal summon Junk Synchron, special summon out Synchro Fusionist. This is like turn 3 or whatever after you dump with Mathematician, and you synchro into Armades and you search out instant fusion with Synchro Fusionist, and instant fusion gets you a Jamanite, and that's a Pleiades. That's pretty good. And then I played 3 copies of Maxi because it's a level 2. It's a good card. I've had to ask this question before, but yes, you can special summon Maxi the same turn that you use the effect. At least that's how it's ruled. Which is kind of weird because if you look at the text of the card, it says you can only use 1 Maxi per turn, and that is weird. That's not normal. But yeah, basically, Mathematician is like a normal summon that they have to address, or you draw 1 card, so that's great. And it dumps Synchro Fusionist for setup, or if you open Explorer, you send Junk Synchron instead. Or if you don't need to send anything, you send another Mathematician. It deck things, that's fine. But yeah, besides that, for spell lineup, the Ignition and double Cyclones, 3 Tunings, 1 Rota, 1 Dark Hole, 2 Instant Fusion. I originally played 3, but I didn't have a room in the extra deck for the third Jamanite, or at least I had to make room for a card. And 2 Soul Charge, and then 1 copy of Black and White Wave, which was kind of what pushed me to try this deck out finally to a tournament. Because I had already kind of built the deck, but I had never. I don't know. I didn't know, but Black and White Wave literally never came up. I never drew it, probably because I sided it out literally every single game. Probably because I sided in Imperial Iron Wall a lot in this tournament. But even when I didn't, Black and White Wave was usually the first card that I sided out. So I will definitely cut it. Not entirely sure if you need to cut it to 40, although if you want to cut it to 40, I would probably cut the third Maxi, or at least side it. Or maybe the Rota. That's also kind of cuttable. But, Black and White Wave, it's a cool card. If you don't know what it does, because, you're a normal person, it's a quickly spell that if you have an XYZ monster, or if there is one on the field with a Synchro monster as XYZ material, you can target 1 card on the field, banish it, and if you do, draw 1 card. So that's in theory it's very strong if you resolve it, but usually I'm either setting in Imperial Iron Wall or I need room to side out, and this deck doesn't really have much to side out. It's kind of like what the fact there's way too much engine to comfortably side out a lot of the time, and yeah. And then for sharp lineup, triple Sanctum, triple Call of the Haunted, bottomless, Warning, and Torrential standard. That's pretty normal. Then for the extra deck, we were running 2 Ojama Knights. I cut the third Ojama Knight for a copy of Magical Android, straight out of Edison format. It's 2400 light, which is relevant for bidding over Girgian decks. That's pretty much why I ran it. Why I ran it over like third Armades. I wanted a 4th level 5. I don't think that came up in the tournament, but I could definitely see it coming up. But we're running 2 Armades, which is kind of the main selling point of this deck, and 1 Catastor just can come up. And the choices for the 4th was like Magical Android or TJ Hyper Librarian, and Librarian might come up, but it's not light, it's dark. We're racist here. We like to play with light monsters, especially if they're level 5. So like Armade is MVP of the deck, and then I played 1 copy of Stardust Dragon because can come up. Didn't have room for more level 8s. In hindsight, could be good, but at the same time there's really no room for another level 8. But it's like if you can make 1 level 8, there's a decent chance that you can make 2 level 8s even if you don't want to, but you don't have really anything else to do with Soul Charge, really, mainly. That would have come up. And then we're playing 1 Leo because fuck Girgia. And for the XYZs, 2 Pleiades, M7, Gaia Dragon, Volcasaurus, Tiras, and Durandal. Pretty standard stuff. Just the full level 5, rank 5 package. Shark Fortress, actually, I think one time it could have come up, but it's fine, whatever. Then for side deck, the second scythe, I love the second scythe. Didn't come up because it didn't play into Girgia. At least I don't think it came up. Then, triple DD Crow, Mind Control, triple Black Horn of Heaven, because, that's kind of what I fear. I don't really fear the face downs too much. Double Breaker Skill for artifacts, triple Imperial Arrow Wall for disgusting. This card is disgusting. This card is so underrated. Like, try it in your Artifact Traprix decks. Not the Artifact Traprix decks. Try it in your weaker Artifact decks. It's just so good. Because, in those decks, the Spellbook matchup and Bujin matchups aren't as free. So, having something to just completely shut them down, and especially completely shut down their side deck, is really nice. And then 1 Wiretap because I don't know, I've had an extra room for like Girgias and such. I don't know, it's a good card. And then Crimson Blader. I didn't really put too much thought into this side deck. I didn't make side patterns, but 1 Crimson Blader because can kind of auto-win games sometimes. So I went 3-2. I lost versus Spellbooks and Bujins, and I won versus Spellbooks, Evil Swarms, and Ghost Tricks, which we're gonna check out this replay because it's one of my favorite games that I have ever played. I don't think that Dr. House was feeling the same. Probably not. When I saw that I was playing versus Ghost Tricks, it starts with so it starts with Ghost Trick with Mystic Piper, drawing into Breakthrough Skill, and he drew Warning, Double Veiler, Dark Nephthys, and the Ghost Trick Mary. Meanwhile, I had Synchron Explorer, Synchro Fusionist, Instant Fusion, Call of the Haunted, and Artifact Ignition. So not the greatest hand, but could come up, could improve. But as soon as I saw that I was playing versus Ghost Tricks, I knew that there was not going to be a single attack that I was declaring that wasn't declared by Armades. Not a chance. I am just attacking with Armades. So he top decks Mirror Force, I top deck Solemn Warning. you know, I don't want to trigger Mary. I don't want to trigger Hands. I don't want to trigger Jiangxi. Spectre, not a chance. And I knew that he played Mirror Force because I saw it in the round 1 replay. And you know, if there's one card that tilts me, it's Mirror Force because I never expect it. But if I know it's there, I can expect it and I can play accordingly. So here I finally draw a Mathematician. I can finally unbreak myself. And, you know, Mathematician send Junk Synchron. I go for Call of the Haunted into the Junk Synchron. So, you know, even afterwards I have Synchron Explorer. Flip up the Dark Fusionist. I Synchro into Armades. And I forget to add with Synchro Fusionist. Unfortunately, it's not mandatory, so, you know, I can't really do anything about it. But, you know, not too important. But, you know, here on enter battle phase, I get Breakthrough Skill. So, yeah, no, I'm not attacking. I am never attacking without Alive Armades. Not a chance. Nope, not happening. Never. He top decks Gourds. Nice. I'm sure that's gonna be useful. I top deck Ignition. That's pretty good. I can finally just use it, but use the Ignition, the artifacts. But in this matchup, since I know he's playing like Chaos boss monsters, you know, Dark Arm Dragon, BLS, Chaos Sorcerer, which will threaten my Armades. I know that the artifacts are literally just there for protecting my Armades of those monsters. And, you know, I put the Mathematician in defense position to avoid a nice hand crash into it. He is forced to... He realizes that I am not attacking with anything but Armades, so he starts setting the Ghostring Mary because otherwise there's no use for it. And I blinding Ignition into the Warning. And I start blinding Ignitioning his back row. I'm not entirely sure why. I did that. I don't know why. But anyways, I'm gonna make a second Armades because I kinda wanted things to go a little bit quicker. Yes, that was probably because I wanted things to go a little bit quicker. Because, you know, I figured that he was probably gonna have a lot of low-level monsters to set. But, you know, he didn't really have, you know, he had Valor, but still. And I go for Instant Fusion into Jamanite to go for Pleiades in defense position, obviously, to bounce the Call of the Haunted so I can bring out another Armades and have Pleiades on the field. But that gets Breakthrough Skilled, unfortunately. It top decks into Tour Guide, and I go for the Warning because, well, unfortunately here I am going to... You know, he successfully baits me out. So, you know, now he can kind of wreck my field. I bait the Breakthrough Skill, obviously. And yeah, but I top deck, fortunately, into Sanctum. Although, you know, I also have Soul Charge since turn 1, so, you know, I was fine either way. But yeah. I think a while to choose the targets. I'm at 4,300 life points and he is at 3,400. But I bring back the Armades and the Jamanite. I was considering bringing back Pleiades, but you know, decided not to because M7 wasn't too relevant. You know, I already ran through my Armades. But, you know, here I go for Volcasaurus. That gets Valored, unfortunate. But I tribute summon the Mathematician for Pleiades and detach, go for Pleiades to bounce back the Call of the Haunted. And here I get the second Valor. So that is unfortunate, but, you know, I do have just top decked Sanctum, and it draws a card that, you know, you would never expect to see in hat format. Dark Necrofear. The last time I saw this played seriously, it was in Perfect Circle format. You know, the Maizo TKO that played Fiends instead of Insect decks, which was a cool deck, but, you know, Dark Necrofear here is pretty cool, but, you know, it kind of gets wrecked by artifacts very hard. And it's not like Book of Life. If it gets destroyed, then he brings back to me the monster that he steals. If you don't know what Dark Necrofear does, you can special summon it by banishing 3 Fiend monsters from your graveyard. And during the end phase, if this card is in your graveyard because it was destroyed in your monster zone by an opponent's card and sent there this turn, you can target one face-up. Well, it's not like you have to target one face-up monster your opponent control and equip this card to that target. While this card is equipped to a monster by this effect, you take control of that monster. So it's kind of a snatch steal. It's literally a snatch steal. So you go for the big attack. Unfortunately, that gets Breakthrough killed, but I know that. So I have the Pleiades to bounce back the big attack and summon out both my moral attacks and destroy the BLS. And now, fortunately, he forfeits because I was about to attack him raw without any Armadises. So that would have been kind of thrown a wrench in my hey, I only played this deck by attacking with Armades kind of meme, but thankfully he forfeited. But yeah. So next up, game 2, he opens Maxi, Tour Guide, Dark Necrofear, Duality, Cause Sorcerer, and Maxi, another one. Meanwhile, I open Junk Synchron, Mathematician, Sanctum, Call of the Haunted, and Do Solemn Warning. So a pretty fucking stacked hand on my part. He goes for Duality. He gets Mary instead of Darkhold and Tour Guide. I don't know. I feel like Darkhold probably would have been more useful versus Armades deck. At the same time, his hand was kind of shit. At the same time, he had 2 Maxis in hand, and versus this deck, Maxis usually drawing 2 cards. So but yeah, I normal summon Mathematician. I dump the Synchron Fusionist. I set 3 and I pass. No way in hell I'm attacking. No way, Jose. He top decks into Spectre. Not great. But he goes for Tour Guide. I let it resolve. I don't really care to warning that, but I go for the Sanctum here for moral attack to pop the Defiance position. Tour Guide. He maxes into Soul Charge. That's pretty good. And now he's kinda desperate, so he goes for the Soul Charge. And I warning that because if you Soul Charge for 1, you're probably desperate enough where Solemn Warning probably ends you. So I bullied him basically. But yeah, he goes for the Maxi on my Junk Synchron. I go for my Armades, and this time I remember to Synchro Fusionist search Instant Fusion. And he drew an Effect Veiler and a Mirror Force. He goes for the Veiler on my Armades, which means that I'm not attacking. And so I go for a Pleiades, because I can make Armades next turn, but frankly, the thing is, like, I wasn't sure what he could do. So rather than be completely defenseless, I would rather give him 1 draw and have not only the Pleiades but Call of the Haunted be live. So that's why I did that. But XYZing out an Armades in this matchup is always risky because Armades is kind of the MVP. And you can guarantee Call of the Haunted him all of the time. So he goes for the Chaos Sorcerer, so I bounce it with Pleiades because it doesn't have any other monsters to bring it out, and I detach the Moral Attack. He, for some reason, attacks into my Mathematician, so I'm able to draw into Imperial Iron Wall, which, if Armades counters 80% of his deck, Imperial Iron Wall counters the remaining 20%, so yeah, it's pretty good. But here I go for Synchron Explorer. Gets Veilered. I draw a Wiretap. Probably could have waited, but decided not to. But since it gets Veilered, I Call of the Haunted into Junk Synchron, go for Armides. Could have played less aggressively, especially since I had the wiretap. But I decided to not do that. I try to play this my Call of the Haunted, but can't. So instead, I make M7, set 2, and pass. And I try the Imperial Iron Wall, but that gets MST'd immediately. So he goes for Chaos Sorcerer. He now has, both Vader and Tour Guide in the graveyard, so that's probably why he didn't Breaker skill my Armades, and instead chose to Breaker play this, which 100% correct play. Goes for Chaos Sorcerer, banish the Armades, that's a problem. But, I draw double second, that's pretty good. But here I go for Armades. Oh, so for Synchron Explorer into Junk Synchron, and then I M7 into bringing back the Armades to the extra deck, so I can have a third Armades. So unfortunately, he put Chaos Sorcerer in defense position, which definitely a misplay, probably out of habit. This way I can just run him over with Armades. Plus, I could have attacked it with M7 and Mary wouldn't have triggered. So, definitely a misplay on his hand. But yeah, I go for Instant Fusion into Pleiades again. Bounce back the Call of the Haunted. Finally, that works. Not sure whether that's the correct play. It's kind of risky, but I went for it anyways. And I go for Call of the Haunted into Armades and draw a Mathematician. Not very relevant. He said Tour Guide that he top decked. He top decks Dark Nephthys, which is an interesting card. If you don't know what it does, because you don't play like Dead Return format. If you have 3 or more Dark Monsters in your graveyard and this card is in your hand, you can banish 2 of them from your graveyard to send this card from your hand to the graveyard. During your next standby phase, after this card was special summoned by this effect, special summon this card from the graveyard. When this card is special summoned, target 1 spell and trap card on the field, destroy that target. So, it's basically an MST with a 2400 red body. That's pretty decent, but, it's not the best card. But still. He top decks Warning, and now he's down to the last monster to set. And top deck Ignition, he top decks Dark Creator. He has 1, 2, 3, 4 dark monsters in the graveyard. That is very unfortunate, but he does have 3 Fiends. So, he can go for the Dark Necrophere. He tries to run over the Pleiades, and I go for Ignition onto the Warning, and then I bounce the Dark Necrophere to bait out the Breaker skill. And what was the point of that? I don't remember, but I did it. So, here I go for normal summon Mathematician, dump another Mathematician to crash, which in hindsight, I only did it because I had a wiretap. Literally the only reason why I did it. Otherwise, no, not a chance, never. And with Mathematician, I draw into Imperial Iron Wall. So he goes for the Dark Necrophere on Armades, and he tries to. I go for Imperial Iron Wall. He tries to attack, and let it resolve because I don't really care about the M7. It's not really doing anything. Then I summon the M7, the Mortak after double Cyclone, meaning top deck another Mortak. That's pretty nice. And yeah, Bra is literally the keeper of boundaries, and the boundaries is any battle phase shenanigans. So yeah, top deck into another double Cyclone, that's really nice. Soul charges for Sork and Dark Necrofear. Here, I don't remember if I misplay or not, but this time he goes for Sork in defense position, in attack position. I go for Ignition on the Moral Attack to set the big attack for whatever reason. Into a back row, I don't know, but then I pop the Dark Necrofear. And I remember that I have Imperial Arrow and he didn't remember that, so that's kind of why I did that. And now he has 2300 life points, and I have and he has a monster with 2300 attack on the field, and I have 2 level 5 monsters and a Volcasaurus. You do the math. So yeah, and that's the game. Overall, really fun deck, a really fun game. I feel like it's kind of decent. Probably mid to high rogue. Nothing like tier 3 or anything, but it's a fine artifact deck, and it's kind of the best way to build Synchrons. Although it's not really a Synchron deck. It's a Synchron deck in name, but not in spirit, But yeah, that's it from me. Leave a like, join the Discord, subscribe, ring a bell, all the good shit, and I coach. Goodbye.